Boa tarde a todos, a todas, a todes. Sejam muito bem-vindos. É um prazer estar aqui com vocês. Hoje nós temos uma convidada internacional aqui com a gente, que vai falar um pouquinho sobre questões que vão ajudar várias equipes aqui do Brasil, onde a gente não tem, infelizmente, a gente ainda não tem aí essa facilidade com outros idiomas. É, algumas dicas, alguns insights para a gente poder ter aí um desempenho bem legal nessa competição. E por conta disso, a nossa convidada, ela também trabalha nessa área, então ela vai falar um pouquinho do trabalho dela. Mas antes de introduzi-la, eu queria trazer a pessoa que facilitou nosso contato para se apresentar um pouquinho, que foi o Túlio, ele que conectou a gente aqui com a Dil, e ele vai falar um pouquinho dessa conexão, dessa presença dele com a gente, do porquê que ele está aqui no evento, e ele também vai ser um dos mentores durante o nosso evento, então vocês vão poder encontrar com ele lá. Túlio, conta um pouquinho aí por que você se conecta aqui com a gente no NASA e um pouquinho de você, para o pessoal te conhecer antes da gente apresentar a Dil para todo mundo.
Oi, Samantha. Primeiro é uma honra estar aqui junto contigo, né? Estar participando contigo de mais um evento, né? Eu venho de um evento do Startup Weekend, né? Relacionado com o Google for Startups, que tem eles como sponsor, né? Com o pessoal da Distrito, da Techstars. Isso foi muito legal, foi o que eu estive aí com vocês e agora eu estou nessa segunda jornada aqui junto de vocês com isso que significa estar trabalhando com a NASA como sponsor, de certa forma, né? Ou seja, a NASA colocando aí os seus holofotes, aí, os seus olhos bem abertos para o que o Brasil também consegue desenvolver, né? Que o Brasil tem, é uma dinâmica incrível, né? Para mim, estar aqui, né? A convite seu, a sua abertura, é uma honra e é uma alegria, porque participar disso, fazer parte desse caldeirão de ideias, né? E desse caldeirão de possibilidades é incrível. E a Dil é mais uma dessas incríveis possibilidades, né? De estar aqui. A Dil, ela mora também em Nova York, né? Ela vem de lá daquele contexto nova-iorquino, né? De arte, de cultura, né? Do cinema, né? E a Dil tem uma experiência empreendedora incrível, fortíssima. Ela já trabalhou com grandes nomes também aí, né? Como coach em American Accent, né? Poxa, assim, é uma pessoa querida, que eu tenho uma amizade, né? Ela, Emanuel. E são pessoas assim que trazem, né, essa luz, essa luminosidade dos acontecimentos, das possibilidades, né, dos Estados Unidos para cá e daqui para lá também, né? O Manuel, o esposo dela, já levou empresas daqui para lá, para os Estados Unidos também. E eu acredito assim que ela vem agregar muito, porque eu fui coach da Dil e ela me trouxe assim aspectos sobre a linguagem que é a linguagem inglesa, especialmente americana, né? Aspectos que a linguagem tem que eu não imaginava, né? Como ela vai falar mais sobre isso, com certeza. E vocês vão adorar, assim como eu adorei. Foi incrível. E a Dil tem como clientes aí também gente de alto nível aí da Microsoft, que eu sei, tem gente grande aí que também aprende com ela, né? Gente do mundo inteiro que aprende a melhorar esse aspecto, né? É isso.
Gratidão. Gente, eu vou só antecipar para vocês o seguinte: para quem não entende inglês, fiquem tranquilos, a Dil vai falar em inglês, porque é onde ela se sente mais confortável e onde ela pode passar para a gente essas questões dos accents, de alguns detalhes da linguagem, mas depois a gente vai legendar, então vocês, na hora que vocês estiverem acessando, vocês vão estar acompanhando aí com a legenda também, e vocês também podem depois tirar dúvidas, a gente fica à disposição no canal para tirar dúvidas para vocês, ok? Dil, thank you for staying with us. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And please tell us why you are connecting with NASA SpaceX Challenge and who you are.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Samantha, and thank you, Tulio. Thank you both for inviting me to be here. It's a pleasure. I always love to help people. And how do I help people? I help people with their communication. And so when Tulio and I were talking, he thought maybe it would be a great idea if I could come in and give a few tips to some of the contestants who are going to be participating in this Space App Challenge. And what I understand the tips are for, and of course, I really look forward to the conversation and how we can go deeper into this topic, but how can I help all of the viewers how I can help you to prepare and to record your opening video for your challenge. And so that's why I understand I'm here, and I prepared a presentation to talk about what makes effective English communication skills and how can you present yourselves well in that 30-second video that you're about to create. So I think I got it right. Is that why I'm here, Samantha? Okay.
Amazing. Thank you. And the show is yours. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Great. Well, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. I'm going to start over here with my 10 tips for your English communication confidence for your Space App Challenge. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. And, you know, I always like to start by asking a very simple question. Did you know that 55% of your communication is influenced by your nonverbal communication? That means how you use your hands or your eyes or your posture or your facial expressions. The nonverbal component is the first thing that people see when we communicate. And the second thing that you may or may not know is that 38% of the message is influenced by our voice. So that could be our projection, that could be the way that we pause, that could be the resonance we get in our voice. The sound of our voice basically is 38% of the message when we are communicating. And you're going to be surprised, that leaves 7%. That's 7% for the content, the message, the information that you spent so much time researching and learning and getting ready to speak about. Now, I want to qualify something here. It's really important. Yes, a study showed from 1967 that 55% of the message is nonverbal, 38% is vocal, and 7% is the message. But I'm here to kind of adjust that a little bit and say, we know that you are 100% the expert when it comes to your challenge and the subject matter that you are about to present on. So I want you to remember, of course, the content is super, super, super important. But when it comes to the moment that you need to introduce it, when you need to create a video about it, you need to start to think about what are the other components that are going to get you to stand out in the crowd. So why am I here? As we already discussed, I am a communication skills coach. I focus on the American accent and your English communication confidence. And today I'm going to help you with 10 simple tips. I mean, there's so many things I could help you with. So I wanted to narrow it down to 10 things that I think are practical for you to apply to your introductory video. So let's take a look quickly, and then I'll go into more detail. The first thing you want to think about is making sure that you prepare your 30-second project introduction and don't expect to just jump in and do it well. I'm going to talk a little bit about knowing your opening cold. What does that mean and how can you do that? One of the things Tulio and I have worked on a lot is pausing. How do we pause effectively in our speech? And that's something that can really show off your confidence and, again, get you to stand out. Another point I want to cover is why emphasizing words matter. I'm going to go into that in detail. And then there's diction. What is diction? How can you use more diction? And how does speaking with diction kind of elevate your communication? We'll talk a little bit about that. Now, after you have some concrete speaking tools, you want to make sure that you practice out loud. So I'll talk about that and what sometimes gets in our way when we don't do that. How about looking into the camera? That's always fun, right? Some people, you know, you might be a technical person, you might be an engineer, you're a scientist. Maybe it's harder for you to kind of make that connection. I want to talk about why that matters when you make your video. And then, as I said, 55% of our message is influenced by our nonverbal communication. I want to give you some tips for how you can use hand gestures to help connect with your audience. We'll talk briefly about relaxing, how that will prepare you for thinking in confident ways during your video. So this is the overview. I'm going to give you a few tips for each of these. Let's go ahead and jump in. So when we talk about preparing for a presentation, you know, I said that you are 100% the expert. You've already done all the research, you're ready to go, but now you have to talk about all your knowledge. So one of the things I suggest, try writing out what you want to say and don't leave it to guessing. And when you've done that, the next best thing you could do is you can ask somebody, hey, could you read this for me? Because when you hear somebody read your thoughts to you, you're going to think differently. You might make some adjustments to what it is that you really want to say. It's a really useful tool. Now, if you feel like your English is good enough, because it's my understanding these presentations are going to be in English. Is that right, Samantha? Yep. So because they're going to be in English, you may or may not be comfortable reading. You may want to read, but if you want to really show off your English skills as well, you want to transfer all of those notes to bullet points so that you can just grab the idea and then again speak to the camera. If you have 30 seconds for your presentation, you better be timing yourself. Make sure that you know what 30 seconds really is and you're not all of a sudden doing a 2-minute presentation. All right, time matters when it comes to a contest like this. And finally, you're going to want to choose a hook. And I'm going to talk about what that is right now. So I talked a little bit about knowing the opening of your presentation cold. It's so important that you know your presentation because that opening is gonna really be strong. It's gonna make you feel good. So I wanna talk a little bit about what is a hook. A hook is something that can grab somebody's attention. So we have various ways we can do that. We could do that with, let's say, a definition. Let's say your project is about climate change. Maybe you want to actually open with the definition of what climate change is. And that can grab the audience's attention. Maybe you want to use a quote from a famous scientist or a famous engineer who has worked in space. And again, give credibility to your project. I think some of the favorite things that people like to hear, especially when we talk about science, is statistics, numbers. And you'll notice I opened my presentation with numbers, 55%, 38%, 7%. Ooh, sounds so important, right? So numbers are really a great way to open your presentation. Another thing is a dramatic statement. And it made me think, I was thinking about a news clip I saw about all of the garbage that exists in space. Did you know that there are over 100 million pieces of garbage or trash floating around in space? That could be a kind of dramatic statement that could open up your project if your project is about what can we do with all that garbage, right? All right, and then finally, another easy opener might be a rhetorical question. Now, in my opening, I used a rhetorical question. Did you know that 55% of our communication is influenced by nonverbal communication? So I used a rhetorical question combined with a statistic. Rhetorical questions are easy. You can ask a question and then you can go ahead and answer it. So when you use a hook and you practice it and you know it so well, you're going to feel confident and you're going to engage your listeners and you're going to gain their confidence right from the beginning. You're going to feel it and you're going to show your confidence. All right, let's go on to our next tip. So many people, and again, let's talk about English for a second. We know that English is a foreign language for you. So if it's a foreign language, a lot of times speakers of a foreign language think they show their fluency when they speak quickly. I'm here to tell you that you can speak as quickly as you want, but you need to pause. Because let's just take writing, for example. When we write, we use periods, we use commas, we use punctuation in our voice. The problem is so often, whether it is a first or second language, we speak so quickly that we miss the opportunity to pause. So what you need to do is you need to group your words together into meaningful thoughts, and you need to pause. The beautiful thing is when you pause, you get to think. And then while you're thinking, people are digesting what you're saying. That's the idea of using pausing. Another thing is when we pause, we breathe. You know, breathing is not just essential to be alive, but breathing is essential. It helps us think, right? So if you're nervous about your English, you're just nervous about the project, you're nervous about your video, why not take a breath, get a little extra oxygen to your brain to keep you going? And I think I said this before, we want you to be confident. So when we pause, we show off that confidence. And when we rush, we lose that confidence. The other thing about pausing that's so important here is that when we pause, we want to make sure we do that in relationship to emphasis, because not all words are created equal. Not all words matter. Yes, all words matter when we talk about the structure of a language, but not when we talk about communicating the language. We need to focus on the nouns and the verbs and the adjectives and the adverbs, because those words carry the information. And so what you need to think about is, how can I choose one word in each of my thought groups? How can I choose one word and emphasize that? Okay, usually we emphasize with a little extra volume, a little bit more melody, a little bit of length on that word. But remember, not all words are created equal. And when we find that word that we want to emphasize, we generally want it to be in relationship to that silence or that pause. All right, so I hope I'm demonstrating a lot of the things that I want you to do. I know it might be hard to master all these things real quickly, but let's keep going. Let's talk about diction. So diction is another word for articulation and how we produce a sound. When we talk about accent training, I focus on the music of the language, which is the rhythm of a word, or, as I said, the pausing that happens, the emphasis that happens. And diction is that part of pronunciation that's particularly hard to change. However, there are things you could do, at least waking up these muscles, right? So I like to always wake up my muscles, right? My nose. Not too many sounds are going to come out of my nose. But I'm going to have sounds that come out of my mouth. So I want to wake up my cheeks. I want to wake up my lips. And so you can just kind of move the muscles in your face before you do your presentation, before you create your video. And you can try a very simple articulation exercise. I like to take the 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, A, E, I, O, U. And I just say it again and again, and I move the muscles. I move the muscles. Maybe I take a consonant like a B sound, and maybe I say baby, bi, bo, boo, or ke, ki, kai, ko, ku, or de, di, di, do, do, or me, me, my, mo, moo, or say, si, si, so, su, te, ti, tai, to, tu. I just play. I play with my voice, and I play with the articulation, which is the movement of the muscles, all right? The important thing is you do want to keep your facial expressions engaged when you speak, because we already know that that's 55% of our message, what people see. But also, if you are thinking about that, hopefully you'll be articulating as well. That's our goal. All right, well, here we go. So did you ever prepare for a presentation and it's just so perfect in your head, right? It's perfect in your head. It's always perfect in your head because you're the expert. But don't be fooled, because we always sound good when we practice silently. You have to practice out loud. Okay, I promise you, if you practice out loud, you'll start to hear what you're going to say, and you will start to be more comfortable with the material. I also recommend, why not practice in front of the camera, right? We're going to talk about ways to use the camera, but you can also record that, right? You can try recording yourself, listen back. I'm sure you'll do it more than once. I'm sure you're probably going to do this, but I just want to remind you that before you click record, practice it out loud a few times, just so that you're not surprised when the actual recording comes. And then obviously, when you do all that, you get to refine your message. You get to refine the art of your communication. Excellent. We just had a couple more tips here. The one about looking to a camera. You know, if you're an artist like me or Tulio, right, who's a musician, you know, we're kind of outgoing people. If you put a camera in front of us, we're going to entertain you, right? But you might be a scientist, you might be a technician, you might be an engineer, and you might be more shy when it comes to this component of your very important challenge. So I want to just give you a couple tips. I want you to think about focusing your eyes on the dot. Right? There's a black dot there. Focus on it. Focus on it like it's alive, right? And not just alive, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a smiling face, okay? But you do need to look into the camera like I'm doing, because you see, if I look down at my screen, that's a whole different communication, isn't it? Right? Right, Samantha, right, Julie? So if I'm looking at my screen, that's one thing, but if I'm looking here, it's another. So what you can do, and you probably will want to do, is you'll want to look at a bullet point, look at a sentence, but you need to come back to that dot, to that friendly face, to that smiling person that you're imagining on the other side. So you look at the screen, you grab your point, and you come back. That's it. Again, you want to come off as confidently as you can, and that's one way to do it. Let's talk about hand gestures, okay? Now, some people get distracted if somebody's using too many hand gestures, so we want those hand gestures to have a purpose. One of the things, though, that I want to tell you is that studies have shown that when we do use hand gestures, it helps us to retrieve vocabulary words from our brain. That's a good thing for you, right? Because you might be struggling for vocabulary words. So what does it mean to use a gesture and just imagine that word coming out with that gesture? So I wanted you to know that. The other thing I think is important is you want that gesture to have meaning. You want it to be kind of coordinated with an emphasized word. You don't want to just be moving your hand randomly, right? You want to coordinate your gesture with an emphasized word, right? Coordinate, it's a gesture. The other thing you can think about when you say, well, what kind of gestures can I use? We talk about a shape, it could be round. We talk about a size, it could be big. Or we might talk about being excited about something, right? So when you think about gestures, you can think about size, you can think about shape, you can think about emotions. Those are little tips that might help you. And then finally, the purpose here is to create meaningful movements, all right? And see if even a couple can help you with your communication. All right, relaxing. Now, I know we're not going to the beach, but but we do need to relax, okay? You do need to prepare yourself through relaxation techniques before you record yourself breathing. One of the easiest ways to practice breathing is something called box breathing. We breathe in for, let's say, 3, we hold for 3, we exhale for 3, we hold for 3. And then we just kind of repeat that, breathing in for 3, holding for 3, exhaling for 3, and holding for 3. Again, you're going to get oxygen to your brain. You're going to start to relax. And we need to not just be relaxed in our mind, but we also need to relax this part of our body. We need to relax this. So one way to relax the neck and shoulders, I like to imagine a little pencil on my head, tiny little pencil, and I make like little circles on the ceiling. Yeah, do it, Samantha. I'm sure you want to relax. You're dying to relax. Right? You're like, oh. So a little movements of the head, maybe some back, just gentle with the shoulders, forward and back. Anything you can do to relax the vocal cords, because that's where you're going to use your voice, produce sound. So we practice breathing, we practice small movements. And the last thing we need to do as part of our relaxation is visualize your presentation going amazingly well. Visualize it going well. If you can visualize it going well, there's a very good chance it will. So that takes me to the very last point. You have to think in confident ways. One of the things that we do so often is we have this inner voice in our head. I'll come back to the first one. We have this inner voice in our head that's always telling us negative things. I'm nervous, I'm afraid, this isn't going to go well, I can't believe I have to do this in English. We just kind of reinforce all of the negative things. Why not tell yourself something positive? That you're smart, that you're ready, that you're prepared, that you're excited. Trying to focus on all of the positive things that can help you think confidently. Now, the second thing is to think about your posture. Because, studies show that when we have an open posture, we start to generate testosterone, which is the confidence hormone. So you want to be open. As soon as you start to close your body, you start to shut that down. You might then, be more fearful. You might have more nerves. So think about sitting straight, having a strong, open posture to go along with your confidence. And now let's talk about how you can kind of, right before you turn on that camera, think about NASA, think about a spaceship about to go off into space, right? Counting backwards, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. Right? Now, studies have shown that when we count backwards, what happens is we kind of interrupt the prefrontal lobe of our brain. So if we're nervous, if we're afraid, if we're worried, if we don't want to do the video, if we don't want to do that presentation, we can count backwards. And then when we get to 1, we're kind of interrupting our thought process. And then we get to tell ourselves, I'm excited, I'm confident, I'm knowledgeable, I'm prepared, I'm the best. Whatever you want to tell yourself. But before you get on that recording, try counting backwards as a way to jump in with all of the best energy that you can. And so to summarize, I just want to say some of the biggest tips here. Make sure you prepare, make sure you warm up, make sure you practice out loud, and make sure you think in confident ways. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to wish all of you the best of luck. And I can't wait to continue our conversation now with Samantha and Tulio. Good luck, everybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let me show in gallery. We are back. Amazing tips. And I believe if people has this kind of training 1 week or 2 weeks before the competition, could be a big support to them, right? To practice and doing the things instead of they don't know what they are doing during the competition, but they could prepare themselves. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tulio, tell us some tips that you use it, because you are a coach from gym. So tell us how was in the practice.
Yeah, at first I was thinking that with these tips that Jill brought to us, I think that people there in this event will feel more confident, really confident. And I use that, especially, for example, Jill told you, I need the pause. Like a Brazilian Italian descendant, we have this kind of behavior to speak so much, speak and speak with a strong intensity. I don't know how to say, but it's that I did the pause, for example, and I enjoy it a lot, and I understood a lot when Jill started to talk with me about the melody in our speech. Because melody is, I'm a musician too. I don't know if I told it for you, Samantha, but I told it for another guy that was with us in another event. And I am a musician too. I play some instruments. I like to sing. So to think in melody for me in the American English language, or English in American accent, I think that it was so new and cool because I started to see the language in another way. For example, I'm Brazilian, okay, I'm no Portuguese, okay, I always learned Portuguese in schools, but I always was watching movies in English, for example. We Brazilians, we have this kind of, we do that since we was born. Because we show, we watch, and we show what we are in Portuguese, but we watch a lot of things in English. We see a lot of things in English. So English is, I think English is something that is with us in our consciousness. I don't know how to say. When we are conscious, totally conscious, we can be beyond this paradigm of language, and melody is the link for me.
The music.
That I never told this to you too.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Yeah, well, it's interesting. I had a session with a client yesterday, and I was just saying, let's talk about humanity. What do you think connects us as humanity? And he said music. And I mean, I wasn't expecting that because we were just having a random conversation, but what he was saying, and it's so true, that it doesn't matter when it comes to what language you speak or how good your accent is, or if you understand all the words. But when we listen to music, there's rhythm, there's melody, there's this thing, talk about space, that the universe actually has melody in it. And so anyway, we're going to go very far out into space, right, with this conversation. But the point is that I think that melody is essential to our communication, and it helps when we use melody. It's a hard thing to just do, so I didn't spend too much time talking about it, but it just takes us from good to great in our communication, adding that little melody.
I cannot imagine a movie without melody and song and something like that. So I tried to just to see some movies without sounds, and it's look like strange for us because you don't connect the emotion, something like that. It's incredible.
Well, even go back to the movies when they didn't have talking movies, but they always had music in the movies. Charlie Chaplin.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
So I thought it's something that we need to use more to be more creative to use it. And I thought for the guys and ladies, and I want to have another tip to them, because sometimes they thought, oh, we don't have enough time. So I saw the points that you show in your presentation, but could be a good way in something more 30 seconds. So in 30 seconds, what I needed to, so probably how, when, something like that.
Sure. Yeah, right. So so first of all, I want to say you're going to be surprised how much you can say in 30 seconds. You might say 30 seconds, I could never say a lot, but that's why I said time yourself, because you're going to be surprised that you can say a lot. So when I talk about short mini presentations, like 30 seconds, or even answering questions, having to do kind of impromptu speech, you need to use this idea of having what I call a headline. You need an opening statement. And in this case, that's why I suggested some kind of hook. It could be a definition, it could be a quote, it could be a statistic, some opening statement. And then in the body or the most part of what you're going to say, you're going to back that up. You're going to support that with maybe 1, 2, 3 points. So what are the 3 most important aspects of your challenge, the solution you have that you want to highlight? And then when you're finished, you want to come back to that opening statement. Maybe you don't want to say it exactly the same way, but you want to remind them what you just said. And the reason you say it twice is because maybe somebody was sneezing, or maybe someone was writing or looking at something and they didn't hear that opening statement. So you open and you finish with that statement that is clear and that is short. And then you give 1, 2, 3 supporting evidence from your study and from your project. Is that good?
Great, good. I will try to use it too. Great,
It's
good idea.
one thing that I think that's so important too, especially for Brazilians, is when we compare the Brazilian culture and our reality right now in American or in English language level, and we think, for example, comparing with the Indians guys, for example, I think that they have more courage, is correct to say, courage to speak in English. Sometimes not good with a so hard accent for us to understand. Yeah, but they do that. They try. We Brazilians, we need to do that. We need to try. We need to try to do that, because it's different in not just different in something that for us could be something strange. No, it's different because this could change our way of thinking.
And
our
Tulio, yeah, I think that's a great point, right? Because we let our fear take over. I know in Portuguese, sometimes I have that moment of fear, it stops me. But what I wanted to say, when you talk about having courage, it's about not being perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's not about, oh, the verb tense was wrong or the vocabulary was wrong. That's why I like to talk about it's communication. It's not English, it's not grammar, right? Think about the art or the act of communicating, which is about connecting. You want to connect. So have some courage. Remember, the goal is to connect, and it's not about being perfect, right?
Yes. In my case, I don't use it speaking English all day. So I used the English in 2011. It's a long time, but sometimes I try to, and the first thing that happens with me is, oops, let me try to, oh, no, I don't need to translate. I just need to say, something like that. And then I ask it to the people, I am clear for you. Is that okay for you or not? So sometimes could be this way, something you need to explain the idea, not just to say something really complex, but sometimes you need to just say the idea.
That's right. I think that's a very good point too. That, I had a graduate school professor who once said, we had some international folks in the class, and most of us were native English speakers, but they would get up there, they would use very simple vocabulary, sometimes a little bit of a strange choice, but it said exactly what they wanted us to feel, because they didn't have a lot of options. And so sometimes the vocabulary word might be the better word to get us to really understand what you want. So good point.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So Tulio, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I will say that. I think that one of the most important thing for me right now, after to get all tips that you share it with me, is start to think in English sometimes. Try to think like you did. Try to think in English, not just try to read, talk in English, but try to think in English. Try to have a conversation with yourself in English, for example. It's totally different. You will not, how can I say, you will not hurt your Portuguese native language. So I think that some Brazilians feel that, like, oh no, I'm Brazilian. I speak Portuguese. English is foreign language. I don't know. But no, try to think in English, because you see that you change some things. For projects, for example, to work in projects, I enjoy to use in English a lot, because it's more focused to projects. And so if you think in technology, I think, and if you think in NASA, I think that to think in English is a good exercise to be more near of your goals, if you're thinking there.
Yes, and the material that they need to send to the website totally in English. So it's something that they really need to have cares before the competition to prepare themselves. But we have Google, so it could help us a lot in this moment.
Okay. Absolutely.
But to take, yeah, but to recording the video, they needed to practice more. So thank you so much for your tips. I really think they will help them a lot.
I hope so.
And will help me a lot, because I'm a teacher too, and I will taking some of tips.
Good.
To practice.
Yeah.
And I thought we will probably have a good finale of that. So in the future, probably the next month, we will have the results. And I believe we will see some videos with your tips inside of them.
Oh, well, I'm really glad to be here to help. And thank you again, Tulio, for inviting me, and Samantha for bringing me. Yeah.
It's an honor for me, for Brazil.
Yeah, good pleasure. Thank you so much. And
Boa
we
sorte,
are finishing
todo
here. Boa sorte. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See you.